time has arrived for the most important session, right? That of course is literally a dream come true for me. This is a fan moment. I grew up in India, right? In India, cricket is religion and our cricketers are gods. And I'm very happy that today I get to sit with one god of cricket who's done so much, for South African cricket, for Indian cricket, and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, can we invite on stage the living legend, Gary Kirsten. Gary Kirsten played for the South African cricket team from 1993 to 2004, 101 test matches, 185 one-day internationals, coach of the Indian cricket team that won the World Cup. Thank you, Gary. That's a moment etched in my memory and my heart. That is so special. Of course, coached multiple teams, the Delhi Daredevils, Indian franchise, Gujarat Titans, Royal Challengers Bangalore with Virat Kohli. And today, Gary is the coach of the Pakistan cricket team. Gary, thank you so much, for being here. This moment is really special, right? And we are very happy that you accepted our invite. There's so much to learn from you, not only in the cricket world, but you've done so much beyond the cricket world as well. I'll go back history, right? I mean, South Africa has seen turbulent times in terms of cricket. The cricket team could not play for a long period of time. You and your brother Peter have been a key part of the re-emergence of the South African cricket team. One of my favorite opening batsmen, Gary. What was the team's mindset, when you were coming back into cricket after a long period of time, right? And what was it, being out for so long? And what was your mindset?
Well, thanks for inviting me. First of all, it's great to see everyone here, although it's pretty bright, but great to see you all. And before I answer that, we are one of your customers. I've got an online coach education business, and we really need you to solve our problem of Indian transactions.
Absolutely. We will be making some big announcements in the future.
The most failed transactions in all our transactions is in India. So you're the perfect guy for that, Sandeep.
Absolutely.
So we look forward to solving that issue.
Definitely.
But anyway, let's move on. Listen, I think for me it was a great privilege to be at a time in my cricket career when we were reintroduced into international competition in 1992 or 3, I think it was. And for me, what will always remain etched in my memory was watching the first World Cup, which was in Australia, and waking up early hours of the morning, and kind of watching those games take place, and almost in many ways looking at international competition in a really different light, to say, geez, we've got access to this now. I spent my entire career as a schoolboy and even after school watching just domestic sport with no access to it. So this was an amazing experience. And then in that World Cup, actually watching my half-brother, Peter, participating and doing well in the World Cup. You couldn't have asked for any more inspiration as a player to aspire to something than that. I've always believed that we are driven by role models in our lives. If something that we want to do and there's a role model in place who's doing it already, it just gives us even more desire and motivation to go on and achieve that. So once that came through, I literally, on that first day of that World Cup, I was lying in my bed at 3 o'clock in the morning watching the TV and just saying to myself, I've got to be there. I've got to play for my country. So an amazing experience for us. And at that point, I was already 22, 23 years of age. So I'd played 3-4 years of first-class cricket. But it was a great vision or goal for me to want to achieve. And then to kind of do it, I get selected in 1993, and then to kind of do it, my first game playing with my brother was even more special. Only difference was I was, 24, 25 at the time. He was 38. He could barely run between the wickets. So it was it was a bit of a challenge for him, but a great journey kind of for two brothers to be able to do that at the beginning of our time back into international competition.
Excellent. So Gary, you scored 275 runs against England, right? That is still the second longest innings, right? 14 and a half hours, if I remember correct. Nobody knows that you had months of low period. I guess, you had a long period where you were out of form, and that innings, was like a comeback inning for you. South African cricket, again, 1992, Duckworth Lewis was made famous in the World Cup, and we all felt bad for South Africa, right? 1999 World Cup, I remember I was watching the match with my brother, and, India was out, and the next team we were rooting for was South Africa. 1 run of 4 balls, Lance Klusener and Alan Donald. That was another, sad moment. And even when there is success, there's so much of failure behind, right? And we come back from it. And South African team has come back time and again, to be a strong team. Under your coaching, it was the leading test team globally, right? How do you manage these highs and lows, and come back strong every time?
It's quite a question. Well, listen, I think sport creates that. That's the beauty. I mean, I've been professionally involved in the game of cricket since I was 20 years of age. I'm now 56. What's that, 36 years? And I think what sport has given me is a journey of life. The understanding that you're not always going to win. You're not always going to get the result you want to get. In fact, batting, if you take up batting as a pastime or something you want to make a living out, you're going to be actually spending more time managing failure than you are going to be managing success. So I think the great players have learned how to manage failure better and understand performance better, and not get beat up when it's not going their way or not going well. The beautiful thing about sport is that, two teams enter the field, especially now in the modern game, where you're trying to find competitive advantage, but everyone's got all the info that you need. There's no one out there that has got more info than anyone else.
Absolutely.
So you're kind of looking through this info. We use, modern data that is available to us now to try find that competitive advantage. But in the end, you're dealing with human beings, and human beings make mistakes. And we still find that to have some sort of success either in a season or sustainably over a period of time, it's not necessarily about finding your competitive advantage in the science. It's actually finding it in the art, which is kind of understanding how to get the best out of people. I know a couple of the guys made comments earlier about the importance of relationships with your customers, and B2B as well. It's exactly the same in sport, is if we can build a culture or a way of doing things that produces consistency, and we've got the talent on top of that, which every team has got, we can make the best use of our talent. So it's not about one team having more talent than the other. It's how do you make best use of what you've got. And I think the best coaches and leaders now in sport are able to find those little flexion points where they know within their culture they can get the best out of each guy because they position them in the right place. I think one of the best books that I've read, which was written a long time ago, was written by a guy by the name of Jim Collins, Good to Great. And in the book, he talks about making sure that you get the right people on the bus, but putting them in the right positions. And I think that's something that in sport we've dealt with a lot. It's all very well having the talent, but are they doing the right job?
Absolutely.
Are they fulfilling the kind of role where they can play at their best? Absolutely. And I think when a team gets that, and I was very fortunate, I was with the project team, test team from 2011 to 2013. I knew I had the right people on the bus, but just a couple of them were not doing the right roles that they were meant to be doing. And we weren't giving them the best chance of optimizing their talent. And once we kind of positioned them in the right positions, that team thrived.
Definitely. I mean, it's not easy to understand the competence of people, and putting them in the right place where they can really, really excel. We learn this all the time, even in our organization. And of course, I mean, when we look back, there are so many failures to one success, right? And which nobody sees. I mean, what is in the public eye. Gary, there's a very interesting stat, right? You were the first and I think the only cricketer to score a century against all test team playing nations, at that time. I think 9 test team nations, and you scored a century against all of them. That talks about adaptability and versatility, right? You mentioned culture, right? You need to adapt to understand different cultures. Most of the organizations are going global today, right? And we've got to understand how the ground reality, how the people of that country work and operate, right? You played cricket for South Africa in 2008. A big move happened. You were asked to coach the Indian cricket team, right? You led them as a coach to be the number 1 test playing team. And of course, the biggest thing, which is the 2011 World Cup, right? South Africa, India, 2 completely different cultures. India itself has so much of cultural complexity, right? How did you deal with this level of change, right? And how did you succeed in that?
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is I didn't know the answer. So I think it is a very complex question. But I think for any leader, you might have a set of skills that you arrive to a team or an organization or a community. You might have a set of skills that someone likes because that's why you got recruited into that position.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're always a victim of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're a product of your environment, not a victim, sorry, product of your environment. And I needed to try and understand how to get the best out of the Indian players. As the same when I went to South Africa, I'm now in Pakistan, which is a really different and interesting challenge. In fact, I'm grappling with at the moment within my leadership with a Pakistan team, how to coach and how to lead them, because it's very different to India, very different to South Africa. And I think that's been one of the privileges I've had coaching internationally, is just trying to understand how to get the best out of these people. So you mentioned 2 countries, India and South Africa, and I had a very different leadership approach. India, I didn't understand that they're actually big risk takers, and they don't mind failing in the effort to be the best, because it's such a competitive environment. The South African team were much less averse to taking on risk than the Indians were. And much more conservative in their thinking, like to make decisions as a group, whereas the Indians love to be kind of individual in their own thinking. And what did I think I do to help the Indian players, and then what did I do to help the South African team? I think with the Indian players, because it's a very, in my view, dog-eats-dog society where survival of the fittest is kind of what gets you through. And I saw that in their cricket. We had this kind of analogy of the idea of playing for the name on the front of the shirt, not the name on the back of the shirt. And every single behavior, every single day, whether it was at our training sessions, whether it was in a match, whether it was before the match, whether it was a team dinner in the evening, I was monitoring behaviors that reflected the name on the front of the shirt. So, for example, if we were having a warm-up game before a match and one of the senior players openly criticized a junior player in front of the rest of the team, I would have a go at him, because when I say have a go at him, I'd question him on it, because that didn't reflect a kind of a team behavior. Yeah. And we kind of just walked this journey, just making sure we monitored that. Yeah. And I think we were able to get these big individual superstars to believe in a bigger purpose and a shared vision, which allowed us then to go on and have the kind of success because we had the talent. South Africa was the opposite. I found there was great kind of teamness and a very strong culture. And I actually wanted the guys to express themselves a little bit more as individuals, which I was scared to do. I'll never forget, I came into the South Africa team, and the first thing I did is I said, okay, guys, we're going to go into our first one-day international, and we're going to set our batting order based on the situation in the game. So real adaptability and flexibility, which I'd been doing with the Indian team for a couple of years. And after 2 games, A.B. de Villiers came up to me. He said, Gary, will you please tell all of us where we're batting before the day's play, because I want to prepare for that position.
Exactly.
It was such a cool thing for me to learn, is to, South Africans wanted a bit more structure, where the Indians were really comfortable in the freedom of, as the situation unfolds, we'll go in and play. So there was good learning for me from a leadership perspective.
Excellent. I mean, I remember my first job, my boss told me once I got the job that there are 500 people who can do the job better than you, right? So you might as well do your stuff properly. Gary, I mean, we've always seen, whether it's you or MS Dhoni or even to a certain degree Graham Smith, that you're calm under crisis, right? I mean, what is this degree in calmness that, you've done, that no matter how tense the situation or how stressful the situation, you're calm like a Buddha, and the way you manage most of those situations, right? I mean, even while we were watching the different World Cups and, when you were coach of the South African cricket team or the Indian World Cup, I mean, I know, and not even an iota of stress. At least it was not visible to us. Like, how do you manage yourself so well?
Looks good on the outside, eh? When we lost to USA a couple of months ago when I was with Pakistan, I wasn't calm on the inside. I can assure you that. But I just think it's how you rock up as a leader. My view on it is the best coaches that I ever played with, ever worked with as a player, when things weren't going well, they never got overly emotional. And when things were going well, they never got overly emotional. They kind of just were at a level playing. So, I might have had a great performance and I would expect my coach to jump up and be celebrating like I wanted to be. And he's just kind of level-headed around it. And I knew he was checking me out and just seeing how I was behaving. And the same, when you've got disappointment, is you turn to your leader and say, okay, we've had a really poor performance. We've made some errors that we shouldn't have made. There's a lot of frustration in the room. But hey, there's my leader, and he's all right. He's okay. He's level-headed. I know there's going to be a debrief and an unpack later once the emotion has died down. But I think I took a lot of comfort in knowing that those kind of coaches, whether things were going really well or really badly, they were the same people. And the best captain that I ever worked with is MS Dhoni for India, and he was like that, just kind of, you knew he was thinking about stuff and you knew maybe he wasn't happy about certain things, but he never played his cards emotionally in front of people. He had a lot more class than that. And it's a great lesson for me as well. And that's maybe I've taken from that is we live in a world where we're fixated by results. Everything's about a result. And if the results are going our way, we can puff our chests out, look at our mates at the braai and say, we good. And then when things aren't going well, we like to cower and just kind of hide behind people, not go to all the functions that we get invited to because we don't want to show face. But in the end, we're actually just on the journey, And sport has taught me that I'm going to have, as much as I'm going to go up there, I'm also going to drop off. And it's taught me that I don't live my life for the result. The result is a byproduct of the effort and the work that you put in. And the sport has told me that you've got to stick to what you're doing, what systems you're creating, what process you're trying to put in place to allow individuals to thrive in that environment. You're not always going to get it right. But if you do, and you've got a talented bunch of cricketers, and you can have some consistency in your performance because your systems are good, that's the exciting stuff, because then you can see everyone benefit from that process that you put in place.
I mean, I remember watching a video of MS Dhoni where he said that, the same thing. Result is not important. If your process is fine, you'll go the longer way in terms of succeeding, right? And so true, right? I mean, something a lot of the organizations can also learn, in terms of strengthening the process that, where result would definitely be a byproduct. Gary, from a cricket player to a coach and now an entrepreneur, right?
Easy entrepreneur.
Right. I mean, what's the journey been, and how much of an impact your cricketing experience and your coaching experience has had towards your entrepreneurial initiatives? What are the learnings from cricket that you've applied into your entrepreneurial journey?
We've probably spoken about it. I mean, we're in teams, we've got a small online business, as well as a an academy business, but the nice thing about it is when I'm with a team, I'm working with 20, 30 people at once. In our little business team's only 4 or 5 guys, so that's pretty cool. So we, the same rules apply, I suppose. We're all about wanting to get the best out of each other and making sure we're doing the kind of job that we have the most amount of skill for. I've always maintained that competence trumps confidence. So if you've got a certain level of skill and you are able to apply it at its best, you don't have to be that confident to have success. I certainly experienced that in my sport. Is like we sometimes look for the guys who have the BMT, which is a word or phrase that I don't believe in, because I think we all have BMT at some point, and we all don't have it at some point. And we often talk about it in sport. Oh, he's a confidence player. What does it mean? Like he's either playing well or he's not playing well. It's
Correct.
So let's focus on his competence. Let's look at his skills and say, how can we help him use his skills in any environment that he's confronted with? And we found that how we can help players is to help them become more intelligent, not help them become more confident. Confidence kind of comes and goes, but a guy that's using he's improving his decision making with the skills that he's got is what excites us. So it's the same in just even in our small businesses. Like I'm just looking at the guys that work with us and bringing their best skills to help us grow as very, very small businesses.
Well, Gary, I mean, you run the Gary Kirsten Foundation, which is now known as the Catch Trust, right? I mean, you have your venture Coachhead. Thank you for choosing Peach Payments as your partner and trusting in us. What is the impact that your entrepreneurial initiatives are creating to the larger society or to the world of cricket or to the world of entrepreneurship? I mean, if you would like to share something about your initiatives.
I think I'm just lucky that we are able to do different things that I'm passionate about, which is sport, I suppose, which is helping people thrive in sport and showcase their talents. I mean, that's what it's all about. And our slogan in our trust is talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And we all know that living in South Africa. I think it was mentioned earlier as well. We are the great divide as a country, and so we've certainly seen a lot of it where we've taken cricket to very different parts of South Africa, and we see a huge amount of talent. But when you don't have a cricket field to play on, or cricket equipment, or even actually just even a coach, or even a sporting program in the school, and you're not going to recognize that talent. So to be able to make a small contribution into that space is really important to me and the guys that that I work with. I think I've had such privilege through sport. The moment that I wanted to play cricket, I got a cricket bat. The moment I wanted to hit cricket balls, I went to a fantastic cricket facility. The moment I wanted to play matches, I went onto a fantastic cricket field. And the moment I wanted to become better, I had a great coach. And so I was given all access for me to explore my talent and to thrive in the talent that I had. I wish that on everyone, but we know that that's not possible. But certainly what we have created out in Khayelitsha which is essentially a high-performance cricket facility.
Wow.
That's what we've done. So we're basically saying, come here, you don't have to have a scholarship at Rondebosch or Bishops down the road here. You can make it as a cricketer in Khayelitsha, which I think is pretty exciting.
Wow, that is impactful, definitely. Something that we grapple with as an in the corporate world, right? Whether it's a startup or an evolved organization, is managing conflict, right? Sometimes we stay behind, and do not reach a conflicting situation. And sometimes we cross it, right? You've been a coach, you've worked with multiple captains, right? I mean, the role of a coach and a captain, right? There would be conflict in some way or the other. I mean, at least that's how we would assume from the outside. Then you're dealing with whichever team. It's a team of superstars, right? Everybody is an individual brand. And sometimes that brand is powerful, right, across the world, right? How do you manage, conflict, with success, with fame, comes ego, right? How, as a coach, you manage conflict, between teams? I'm sure there would have been instances, either with a captain or some of the other team member or the management, at different levels. What's your approach towards managing conflict?
I've been asked that question a lot, and especially from business environment into sport. I don't know if you think that us as sporting coaches have the answer to that.
I deal with, it.
But we certainly don't. And the last time I was in exclusives, I think there were more books that said conflict on them than any others. So obviously it's something that is not easy to deal with because they often difficult conversations, and you leave a conversation with a bit of scarring. So I think, my answer to that, there's a right way of doing things. It doesn't mean you avoid a hard conversation, but there is a right way of doing things. And for me, I've got different kinds of conversations that I would have with players. So for example, if I need to drop a player out of the team, I'm not going to try and make the situation fluffy or easier for him to take the news. All I need to do is present the facts and keep the conversation as short as possible, because he doesn't want to know that I think he's a great player and that I'm back him and that, I'm going to do everything I can to get him back in the team. He just wants to accept the information, take the news, and then the second conversation I would have with him when the emotion's out of it, maybe 2-3 days later, sit with him and say, okay, what are the kind of things that we could work on to help you become a better player, or make sure that you're a regular player in the team. So I certainly don't get it right. I've got it wrong many times. I also try and read the individual. What kind of communication I think is relevant for that individual. It shows a bit of empathy, that just shows, I was a player. I've been in that position. I've also been left out of teams. What is the best approach? How will it work for him? Some guys don't mind the harder information. Other guys need a bit of love and attention on a fairly regular basis. So, I've been in many, many change rooms where there's been massive disagreement about how we should play strategically. So in answering that, I think it's complicated. And the best success I've had in teams is not that there's no disagreement, but that there is just respect in the environment. So anyone can have an opinion, but there's respect for comments, respect for what people might think of a way forward. Agree to disagree, and we kind of all move forward with this shared experience or shared purpose. That's that's the best way I can answer it. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. At the end of the day, we're dealing with humans, and every person is different, right? And what you said is so correct, that align towards a goal or a vision, right? That common purpose that drives all of us, right? One piece of advice that you would like to give the industry, especially upcoming cricketers or entrepreneurs, who are trying to start something. You had success in different forms different stages of life, different areas. What is that advice that you would like to give all of us?
Well, it would be dangerous for me to be giving any advice, because I don't have a right to. But certainly through my set of experiences, I can't believe I'm 56 already, but I would just say to people, I think sometimes we live in a world where we expect it to have the answer straight away. And I think remaining curious is probably for me, and I've been more curious about life in the last few years than I was early on, because I was chasing. But I think that idea of being curious and being patient around your decisions, being patient around how you communicate with each other, not jumping in too quickly emotionally because you're under pressure. Understand where the other person's view is, but at the same time, kind of lead. You're there to lead, or if you're in a leadership position, people also take comfort in setting those boundaries and to lead in a respectful way, which everyone gets, but that you treat people the right way. Again, I don't think I've always got it right. I think sometimes there've been people that I haven't connected with because I just haven't found that connection, especially with some of the players. But then always to make sure that I've got empathy on their journey as much as possible, and just to remain respectful and patient around any potential rash decisions or judgments.
Absolutely.
Which I'm there to do. I mean, I'm assigned to select a team every other day. So I've got to have an opinion and a judgment on the team and the individuals. So I've learned to be as patient as possible, even if it might be to my detriment.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Gary. These words are golden and very valuable, for sure. And on that note, we come to an end of this conversation. I mean, thank you so much, for giving these very valuable insights and great 30 minutes. This is definitely, for a cricket fan, this is a dream to sit in front of the legend, Gary Kirsten. Gary, thank you so much. Can I invite our CEO and co-founder, Rahul Jain, on stage for a note of thanks?
Well, Gary, thank you so much once again for winning the 2011 World Cup for India. Sandeep and I had to toss a coin to decide who gets to interview here. It was a hotly contested thing. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for taking the time for being with us here today. We're done with the stage part. Now the fun part starts. We've got food. I've got two magic words for you: open bar at the back. The Peach team is also over there, and we've got a goodie bag for everyone over there as well. So please join us for some foods, drink, and now fun. Oh, we've got a DJ there as well. I've just been reminded. Thank you. Yeah.